The planet of Fiorina 161 was a harsh world that I'm sure not many would enjoy being employed on during even the best of times. However, despite the desolate nature of the world, the planet had a single Class C work correctional facility, and so with the prisoners it contained, it required staff to manage it. Today, in a collective character catalogue, we'll be looking at the staff of Fury 161, Harold Andrews and Francis Aaron, excluding Jonathan Clemens, the medical officer, as I have already made a full separate video about him. Harold Andrews, simply known as Andrews, was the superintendent of the Fury facility. Employed by Weyland-Yutani under serial number P58495, he took the warden role in the facility and would remain along after the prison's closure to govern over the remaining band of misfits present prior to the year 2175. Andrews was born in the year 2122 in the United Kingdom. There is little known of his past other than at some point he was employed as the superintendent of the facility on Fury at some undisclosed time. After the facility was shut down in 2175, he remained at his own behest. He commanded the facility with an iron fist, demanding obedience and respect from all under his control, which for the most part he had. But whilst the majority had respect for Andrews, the case was not the same when it came to their favour of him. The others observed his brutish or bullish attitude towards his work and saw him as firm but fair. During his time around the convicts post their closure of the facility and their taking to religion, he knew that they had in no way reformed. Nevertheless, he respected their decision and conviction to become religious and made sure to allow them this freedom. He was a stern man, but not a stupid one. Andrews conducted his work to a T and had a terrible hatred for disorder, and unforeseen unfoldings especially. Eventually, after the EEV carrying the survivors of Hadley's Hope ejected from the Sulaco and crash landed on Fury, Andrews would have a slew of problems to attend to. After the only survivor recovered, Ellen Ripley, he reported the incident to the prison as a whole. He then conducted what he called rumour control, which was basically to inform all the prisoners, the small group that remained at least, of the events that had occurred. He knew that the fact that the only survivor was a woman would upset the already shaky balance under his command. He attempted to downplay the significance of this fact as his resentment for Ripley began. His resentment turned to frustration after Ripley and Clemens performed an unsanctioned autopsy on the deceased girl, Rebecca Jordan. After he had finished scolding Clemens for his actions, he attended the funeral ceremony for the past evacuees, giving a rather unthinking and unempathetic eulogy. Following this, the problems began. Prisoner Murphy was killed by vent fans he supposedly knew very well, and Ripley was openly attacked by a group of gangbangers that were adequately punished by Dylan. The balance had been disrupted by this woman's presence, and Andrew had begun to develop a hatred for her. Dr. Clemens had begun sleeping with her, and his subordinates were running amok. He scolded Clemens for this ridiculousness. To top off all of this, Golick had just murdered prisoners Boggs and Rains on a surveying mission. Taken directly to the infirmary, Andrews witnessed Golick making claims of a dragon that had committed crimes. He was obviously delusional, and even more astonishingly, Ellen Ripley was attempting to corroborate Golick's story. Andrews met with Ripley in his office to discuss this matter and couldn't believe what he was hearing. Ridiculousness. She talked of a beast standing 8 feet tall, acid for blood, killing off the prisoners a few at a time. His anger had boiled over, and as a result he confined Ripley to the infirmary ward to keep her from inciting further insanity and disorder. And as Weyland-Yutani had replied to his report and labelled her as a high-value target. With Ripley out of the way, rumour control was necessary. Andrews collected the remaining inhabitants to the mess hall as he attempted to drill them about the obvious facts and the absurdity of the rumours of the dragon beast. As unset was rampant, He attempted to form a search party for Boggs and Rains, just as a flustered Ripley entered the hall. Upon her dramatic entrance, she once again cried wolf as the final straw was pulled. Andrew's anger turned to a passionate rage as Andrews ordered for her detainment by Aaron. Just as the cauldron had boiled over and his disdain for these absurd stories were cemented, it hit him, that being the revelation that the creature was in fact real. However, his enlightening became quite too literal, as he was raised from the ground by the Xenomorph beast into the events above him, quickly being killed and pulled off into the abyss. Francis Aaron, nicknamed 85, was a Weyland-Yutani employee and prison guard under serial number PA2390 at the Class C Work Correctional Facility on Fiorina 161, aside his superior, Superintendent Andrews. Whilst he was technically second in command at the facility, Aaron was quite unqualified for any type of leadership position. He was a man suited to following orders, and so that's what he was. 85 was born in the year 2140 in the United Kingdom. Little is known about his early life other than he was married and eventually had a child. But he eventually obtained employment for Wei Yu on Fury in the prison facility as a guard. Upon his arrival, the prisoners of the facility were able to sneak a look at his personal file and revealed his IQ as 85, and so the nickname begun, much to his resentment. During his time in the facility, he was essentially Andrew's goon, an unquestioning subordinate. And much the same as Andrew, he elected to remain after the facility's closure in 2175. After Ripley's arrival via the EEV, he was present for the rumour control session after the incident. He followed Andrews when they made the discovery of the autopsy that Clemens was performing, and likewise present for the investigation of Murphy's death alongside Andrews as well. 85 quickly felt regret for Murphy's death, blaming himself for assigning him to the ventilation. However, Andrews quickly assured 85 that he was incorrect and that incompetence was likely to blame. Much later, Golic appeared back in the facility to have murdered Boggs and Rains, and Aaron assisted in restraining the raving lunatic. He was present with the meeting between Ripley and Andrews where she corroborated Golic's story, and it wasn't long after all the commotion that occurred in the mess hall and the final rumour control from the superintendent that 85 was really the only staff member left in the facility. He tried to assert his authority over the scared and agitated band left in the Xenomorph's wake. However, they instead turned to Dylan, who passed leadership to Ripley. Despite this fact, 85 was still an active member of the semi-successful attempt to trap the Xenomorph creature. A group of prisoners had died in the process, yet they were successful in trapping the beast in a nuclear waste containment system. And now all there was to do was to wait for Weyland-Yutani to arrive and destroy the beast. A confidence he shared with Ripley, as they got to know each other a little better. Ripley wasn't on the same page as 85, and so in their disagreement they contacted Weyland-Yutani through Andrew's computer, requesting to terminate the creature themselves, receiving an almost immediate response denying this request. 85 didn't know what to make of this. He simply couldn't understand them wanting it alive, and so dismissed this. He would then accompany Ripley to the wreckage of the EEV and share in the uncomfortable news that Ripley was host to a queen variant of the horrific Xenomorph creature. When she discovered this, she pleaded with Aaron to help her scare the company away from the facility with the threat of a toxic chemical spill. However, 85 refused, believing it in their best interest to trust in the company. Aaron was later contacted by the company in order to have her quarantined until they arrived. Unfortunately for all those present, the estranged Golic decided to release the dragon, and it was once again free in the facility. The remaining survivors planned to kill the creature once and for all by luring it to the lead works of the facility and destroying it in molten lead. However, Aaron had had about enough. He was the only survivor that elected to remain behind whilst they enacted the second plan, as he saw this as pointless and as a suicide run that would result in even more death, and that they should just simply wait for Weyland-Yutani to come and deal with the situation. Time passed and the Wei team finally arrived. 85 left his office to greet them and immediately realised the truth. The company's main priority was retrieving their prized specimen. Even though this was the case, he still held out hope that they would save the other survivors as well as leading them, and so led them to the leadworks. Once arriving, they witnessed the two survivors, Ripley and Morse, attempting to kill the remaining specimen within her, as the dragon had already been slain. As Aaron witnessed the obsessive and psychotic manipulations of Michael Bishop, he realised the extent that Weyland-Yutani were going to go to get this specimen, the treachery that they are capable of, and the severe danger that their obsession could bring to the wider galaxy and even his family. Soon after, Ripley and Morse were still steadfast in their goals, and Morse continued to move Ripley over the molten lead to help her destroy herself and the Queen Xenomorph within her. As Morse proceeded to disobey Michael Bishop, he requested the Weyland-Yutani commandos to shoot him in the shoulder. This did it for Aaron. He could put up with a lot of being pushed around, but seeing just how nefarious these people were, and that they openly attacked Morse, 85 grabbed a metal pipe and attacked Michael Bishop in turn, causing severe head trauma. One of the commandos grabbed 85 and threw him backwards so that another commando could shoot him for his actions. In the gunfire, he tumbled off the platform where they were standing and died upon impact with the floor below. Even though this was a swift end for 85, he went out fighting against those that would bring hardship to the galaxy, harm his companions, and I'm sure he would be glad he was responsible for the torture and anguish that Michael Bishop would have to go through in the future due to the severity of his injuries endured. Before I go, I just wanted to let you guys know about the merch store called ACHERON's Colonial Marketplace. Here you can pick up a variety of ACHERON and alien themed merch from 3 distinct product lines, including shirts, hoodies, mugs, blankets, stickers, bags, and even phone cases. So if you want to support the channel and look good doing it, pick up some ACHERON merch. But what other videos would you guys like to see? If you have any ideas or have any questions you would like answered, please meet me down in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and go check out Project ACHERON on Twitter and Discord. If you want to support me further, you can become a patron where you can get access to early and behind the scenes content, the monthly and Alien Day giveaways, as well as the patron only engraved set of items. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Until then, this is Project ACHERON, signing off.